So this part of Chicago that I'm talking about is called the Jackson Highlands. I would compare it to, like, let's say Crown Heights 10 years ago, Bed-Stuy 10 years ago. It's not bad. Flatbush maybe 5 years ago. It's not bad. So, but then it gets cold in Chicago. Okay, so let's take our behinds to Atlanta. Downtown is like in the center, right, where the city's at. Go a little south, a little west. You can buy a ranch home, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 2-car garage or carport.
Nice.
For about $50,000 to $60,000.
And so what does that mean?
Same thing with the Chicago thing. So when you buy a home, you can qualify for FHA. Again, FHA is 3.5% down. So again, $50,000 means that you're going to be putting down less than $2,000. So Tonya.edmonds, if she wanted to, could buy a home in Atlanta. She doesn't have to live in this home, even though they say you're supposed to say that you're living in a home. I don't want to encourage anybody to do anything illegal. But anyway, right along, for $2,000, you can have yourself a house in Atlanta.
Wow.
Okay, so let's get deeper into the numbers. So some people say, well, I can't afford, I wouldn't be able to qualify for the mortgage. I can get to $2,000, but how am I going to get the banker to give me some money? Okay, so if $50,000 is costing you $300 a month, that means that your annual income is supposed to be about $15,000.
Really?
So anybody who's making $15,000 and more a year can qualify to buy a $50,000 house.
Wow.
Now let's go back to Chicago and Atlanta specifically. Chicago shoots is in the top 3, if not the top 2, but definitely the top 3 in terms of TV shows shot in America. Atlanta is in the top 2 or the top 3 in terms of movies being shot in America. They're now calling Atlanta Hollywood East. So many shows that I think Hunger Games is even shot in Atlanta, or one of those shows that seem like Hunger Games shot in Atlanta. So for those of us that are working actors and actors, you know any working actors and actresses?
Yeah, just a few. You know,
for those of us that are working actors, I know there's some people in the crew that are working.
Yeah.
One brother in particular I'm talking to. But anyway, but he don't want to move to Atlanta. For those people who want to work in media, you know, there's some opportunities in these spaces. And that makes me very excited. And
Me too.
I think people need to get down with that. Stop saying that it's too hot or too cold or too country or too this or too that.
You're right. Tell me about Miami.
Okay, so I just came back from Miami, actually.
You just came back.
Just came back from Miami because, you know, they had Art Basel.
That's why you got sunglasses on.
Yeah. These are prescription, y'all, okay? But they do have a tint, this is true. Miami's beautiful. Miami's more expensive, of course, than Atlanta. But Miami, their entertainment thing is on a whole nother level. Like, you think
What do you mean? You mean like the film industry?
No, I mean like partying. I mean,
okay.
I mean like for those. So some people may say that the scene in Chicago isn't fly enough for them, which there is a scene in Chicago. There's also a scene in Atlanta. But you know, people may want to compare. People who want the hypeness of like partying or entertaining or going out of Los Angeles, you can get that in Miami, but on a whole nother level. Like the upscale restaurants out there, like on a whole, because you got millions of dollars from South America, you got millions of dollars coming from Russia, you got millions of dollars coming from the Northeast.
Oh my God.
So all of those things together make for a very sexy electric space. But then if you drive maybe a mile away from the center of Miami, you could find a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house for like $200,000. Wow. $300,000. Now it's the hood.
Right.
I'm sorry, I don't know another way to say.
No, I understand.
It's very urban.
Say what you gotta say.
Yeah, it's very urban. Like you may clutch your pocketbook or your wallet when you walk through this, but think about what certain other parts of urban centers around America looked like 20 years ago. Right. And it's funny because there's one particular neighborhood in Miami called Overtown. And Lenny Kravitz was actually just talking about it. He did an article where he was interviewed for a paper because he was down in Miami hanging out as well at Art Basel. And they were asking him, you know, what should you do when you hang out in Miami? He's like, well, you know, go to the South Beach and go to Wynwood. Wynwood is like the art district in Miami. But he said, but you should also check out this historically black neighborhood called Overtown. And I have another friend who just came onto my team in Miami. Her name is Bernie. And she knows someone who's connected to development in Miami. And they're about to throw like $100 million at that historically black neighborhood. So anybody that lives in Overtown right now and is thinking it's the hood, for the next 5 years, it's going to be some whole other thing. Wow. So it's almost like my encouragement to people, if they're looking for places to buy, is to buy black. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that, you know, people who are developers or hedge funds, they usually they understand that anything that's within, let's say, 2 miles from the city center is going to appreciate significantly. Usually the city center is where a lot of so-called urban people live, right? And if you can drive a couple of miles to an urban center and that neighborhood looks run down, but it has public transportation, you know, and it has a high percentage of brothers and sisters that seem like they're struggling, you need to get the jump on that, because there are developers going in right now. All those neighborhoods around the country, there are developers there right now, about to put in tens of millions of dollars. But who's not there right now is the other folk, the so-called gentrifiers. They're not there yet because they're scared of those areas. Because, you know, they're like, I don't know those folk, I'm gonna stick out. But for certain folk who happen to be, I don't know if I mean, this is kind of hardcore, but for certain folk who won't stick out in those neighborhoods, you know, we can go there and, you know, fit right in and invest. It's almost like, the term is like regentrifying yourself. It's like regentrifying your own community.
That's what they call it?
No, I'm calling it that.
Oh, you call it? Because I'm like,
She's
I've never heard of that. Is that a word?
No, I'm saying like, we need, this is almost like a call. Black folk, Latino folk, Asian folk, working class folk, creative white folk, if you're living in a spot that you think is like on the edge, you need to check how close it is to a city center, and if you're thinking that you need to move out if you want, but you definitely need to put some money in that community, because in another 5 to 10 years, that's going to be where the money's at.
So think future, not right now.
Yeah.
Think future, okay.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. It's like, you know, when our people were in the South and they had to do the Great Migration to the Midwest, you know, some of these folk who left the South to go to Chicago, to go to Detroit, you know, 50 years later, 100 years later, they wind up being like, you know, some of the biggest black wealth classes in America. I mean, there's serious black wealth in Chicago. It's crazy. Chicago's an amazing, amazing city. Like, I met some OGs in Chicago, and you know, they got a house on the lake, and they got a house in the city, and they got yachts. I met this one dude. I met this one guy who had a house, almost bought his house on the South Side. This guy was talking about how he had some like 10,000 square foot house, him and his wife, but they was going through some divorce, so they had to, you know, sever the assets. Right. And he's talked about how he took his boat, his yacht, from his house someplace up in the north, down the lake to his house in the South Side. Yeah, yachts.
Wow. Black people.
Yeah.
Thanks again for watching Just Shootin' the Breeze with Tonya. I am your host again, Tonya.edmonds, and thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Hey.
I'm about to jump on the table and do a spin.
Oh, don't do it.